All right. Let's see, remote script, hybrid meetings, public participation guideline. Members of the public wishing to participate in the meeting must use their full name for Zoom access. If full names are not used, people will not be allowed to participate in the discussion. The town reserves the right to remove any member of the public from the meeting who doesn't use a full name or acts inappropriately. We're using Zoom for this meeting, which allows for the public to participate in the meeting as an attendee. Attendees must register to participate. The registration link is unique to the meeting. The registration link can be found in the description of the Nantucket Government TV YouTube live feed for the meeting. People registering to be an attendee must use their names, otherwise will not be allowed to participate in the discussion. Attendees will join in listening mode and they can raise their hand if they wish to speak. The chair will call on those who have raised their hands in order they were raised. All questions should be directed through the chair. As a preliminary matter, this is Brian Sullivan, Chair of the Affordable Housing Trust. Please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Brooke Moore,
I'm here.
Rima Sherry,
Here.
Chantal Murphy,
Here.
Meg Browers,
Here.
Ken Bogran.
Present.
Great. We have some members of the public, but I don't know that we have any anticipated speakers on the agenda, so I'll move past that. Good afternoon. This is the meeting. Yes.
We do have Shelley Lockwood is an anticipated speaker and public
Yes,
comment.
she's coming in on public comment, but she's not identified on the agenda, so I didn't.
Oh, okay.
Good afternoon. This open meeting of the Affordable Housing Trust is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Affordable Housing Trust is convening by video conference via the Zoom app is posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note this meeting is being recorded. All attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you. And to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recordings. Meeting materials. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. We'll turn to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down a line of members, inviting each by name to provide any further comments, questions, or motions. Hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. For any response, please wait until the floor is yielded to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in conversation with other members, please do so through the chair. For items with public comment, after members of the public or after the members of the board have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their name and be acknowledged and speak through the chair. Finally, each vote will be taken via roll call. So with that, we'll jump over to the agenda. I think we do want to edit the agenda a little bit before. Sorry, just gotta get my screens right. Okay, so I'll call the meeting to order and I'm going to look for an approval of the agenda, but would like to make some edits. Item number 4, we are not, which is the approval and execution of the estoppel agreement from the town of Nantucket in favor of Eastern Bank. We're going to move this item to a future special meeting. It is not fully prepared for us to take action on today, as only one of the 2 items were listed on the agenda. So rather than take one up today and another one in a special meeting, a new meeting will be posted on this topic, hopefully later this week, and Tucker will find dates. So I'd like to amend the agenda to remove that item. And then item number 9, the quarterly newsletter discussion, I'd just like to move it to the same time as item 5, the communications plan for town meeting. So we're talking about all of that at the same time. Any questions, comments, or motion?
Move approval of the agenda with those amendments.
Thank you. In a second,
Second.
by roll call, Brooke Moore,
Aye.
Rima Sherry,
Aye.
Chantal Murphy,
Aye.
Meg Bowers,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan's an aye. So that'll move us to item 3, which is public comment. I know that we have one member of the public, Shelley Lockwood, who reached out. She has something she'd like to share with us. We do have other members of the public attending, so if anybody else wants to join, please raise your hand so I can know to identify you. Shelley,
Can you hear me?
we can hear you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for letting me. So I'm not sure exactly from what I understand, I bring up my idea today and then at the next meeting, I would bring my notes or flesh it out more. Is that?
Yeah, so if I understand correctly, Shelley, you gave me a ring yesterday. You have some concepts you wanted to share about employee housing. Would love to hear them. Any feedback we could deliver to you today that's helpful for your notes?
Okay,
Great. And then if you want to send a public document to be put into the packet for next week, we could make next meeting, we can have an agenda item to further discuss it.
okay. I'm gonna
Floor
try
is
not,
yours.
I'm gonna try not to hang up on everybody when I pull up my notes. So if I do, I'll be back. Okay. Well, I guess I should preamble a little. So I live here year round. My family started coming here in 71, so I've seen the ups and downs of a lot of stuff here. I work in real estate. I should also probably disclose that, but one of my passions is to help first-time home buyers try to secure a house here, and it's a difficult process. And as the prices go up more, it gets even more difficult. So anyway, I was putting a lot of thought into this problem, and I came up with an idea that I believe, it's in its infancy, but I believe it could get legs and maybe really help. So what I decided to do was start with what we already have. I mean, the Housing Trust does an amazing job. Housing Nantucket does. Everybody's doing excellent work and trying so hard. And it's just an enormous problem with no silver bullet. So my proposal is I propose extending the benefits and initiatives of the Affordable Housing Trust to a new group, small business owners, to help them buy employee housing. Strict eligibility rules for buyers, and the houses acquired cannot be sold out of the loop at market rate. So it's a covenant type capture of these homes. Once they're bought, they need to stay in employee housing. So I'll just read through the goals: to help small business owners provide housing for year-round and seasonal employees, and to provide stable, clean, safe, fairly priced housing to year-round and seasonal employees. I've spoken with some business owners on the island, pretty well-established business owners. And time and again, as I'm sure you all know, the number one issue that comes up is employers struggle with getting employees because there's no housing. So businesses can't stay open. They sometimes can't open, and they can't serve as many customers as they'd like when they are open. Increasing numbers of small business owners are already buying employee housing and factoring it into their business plans. So the problem is being solved, but only by, it takes a lot to buy a house here for your employees. So if we could extend benefits and help small business owners acquire housing, I just think it's another way to chip away at this enormous problem of people living in their cars or attics or basements or whatever. So obviously for the residents, it provides stability, job security, pride, safety, reasonable rents, which maybe they save and buy someday, which would be lovely. It also gives them steady employment, allows for continuity with a company, which can of course lead to advancement and higher wages. The rest of my ideas I'm going to whip through, and if anybody, this isn't everything, it's just what I managed to throw together out of my head pretty quickly. But my ideas, these aren't in any order of importance, but I would like, my vision of this is that the homes are integrated into neighborhoods, not built all in a bunch, you know, of dormitory style homes, which is going to get a lot of neighboring property owners upset. And I also believe that a neighborhood buying the houses, spreading them throughout the island, it just gives people pride. They have a street that's theirs, they live there, and it's not one of those developments. So like I said earlier, we have some great programs in place, some wonderful products. My thought was to take what's already vetted and that we know is legal and expand the application to this new group. So that's, current homeownership programs that we do have help individuals or single families, but placing the cost on smaller shoulders than a business has. And there's all kinds of tax benefits for depreciation and writing off your mortgage. And there's all kinds of other stuff that I haven't gotten to. But it would be similar to the Covenant program in that the houses acquired would stay in the loop and couldn't be sold for profits beyond what the Covenant homes are. They're decided a certain percentage. There was a concern that this is going to take, you know, housing out of the year-round market, but in a way it really puts housing, it gives housing to the year-round market, because the business owners that would qualify to buy need to be year-round residents, and they're housing year-round employees. So I honestly think that it helps, doesn't hurt. I'm not sure about the SHI number, if this would help us achieve that. It seems like it might. I'm not really sure about that. But I think that everybody agrees that, you know, attracting and keeping small businesses on the island is imperative. We're not going to have the goods and services that we need without them. So that's it for now. I'll have more notes. I'll certainly send them to Brian or whoever can distribute them before the next meeting. Those are just my initial brush thoughts. So thank you.
Great. Shelley, thank you very much. So I'm just going to follow the book of the select board. We won't take questions or comments now, but we'll take your notes and then have a future agenda item at another meeting.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that want to use this time? Any board members as members of the public? Seeing none, I'll close. Oh, wait, Brooke.
Tucker and I are speaking at Rotary tomorrow.
Excellent, thank you. With that, I'll close public comment and jump down to item 5, which is now slightly revised to include item 9, communications plan for town meeting. There was a subcommittee meeting last week on 3/28. Rima, I wasn't able to attend the whole meeting. Thank you for being there. Can I pass to you and Shanta to share with us?
Sure. We mainly talked about the newsletter, which was distributed to members. A draft was distributed to members, and hopefully people had time to look it over. And so one of the main things we talked about with the newsletter was getting it out to a wider audience. And Brian had great ideas for that. Florencia, who is the town's public outreach person, had good ideas for that. So we're going to be sending it to a lot more people. And we're going to be sending it to organizations and asking them to distribute it amongst their members. So it's going to have a good coverage. The other thing we discussed was making a glossy little brochure handout for town meeting that would have blurbs of information similar to the newsletter, which is largely based on Tucker's presentation to FinCom, explaining what the trust has done with all the funding, what we plan to do with future funding, and you know, just kind of explaining where we're at. But with the brochure, we talked about having QR codes on our blurbs, so people could put their phone and get more information on topics that they're most interested in. So that is a nice little high-tech way to do that. And we also talked about going over the website, revamping it a bit, and making sure that it's easy to get to all the information, different types of information that people need. And then, Brian, if you could talk a little bit about talking to Grant Sanders about doing a quick, what did Tucker called it? A punchy poster campaign with a QR code that would take people to a short, exciting little video that Grant could do for us. So I wasn't at that meeting. So Brian, if you could fill us in on that.
Yeah, so I think I'm not sure how much I have to fill in or not fill in. I think Libby was going to look over a proposal. But there was a concept of producing some posters or postcards with some, some thoughtful comments related to housing and creating solutions, and then drive traffic back to an online resource, as Rima stated, that would either have a quick video to kind of explain the situation, to do this in a variety of languages, to capture the broadest group of people on island as possible, and kind of create a system or path so we're driving information in a direction so people understand both the short-term goals of town meeting and articles that are relative to the trust and housing, and then a continued longer-term effort. I do believe that potentially the special meeting will take up the estoppel agreement. We may be more prepared to have a discussion and look at it at that point.
Did anyone have a chance to go over the newsletter as is? I mean, I did, and I have a couple of comments, but if anyone else, okay. My comment, my concern is in the chart, what the trust has done with the 67 point blah, blah, blah million that we've gotten. I would love that to maybe have a link to something more specific where we list the properties that we've purchased and, just to flesh that out a little bit more, because it's just funds deployed. Well, I think people might be curious about how exactly they were deployed and planned uses. There's probably maybe not space in here to get into details, but there are the possibility of linking to more detailed information here. So that's really my own comment on that.
Personally, I'm always for more detail. I think the more that we can educate, the better. As written, it's very word heavy as far as newsletters go. So I caution to make it too much longer, but I do agree with you if there's a bullet point opportunity to do that, and then describe not just the property addresses, but describe the potential unit count each one could satisfy.
I think a link would be the best option there.
Brooke?
Yeah, Florenci's done a lot of this with Libby's monthly newsletter, where they got a lot of feedback that it was too many words. And so what they're doing is short things with a link if you want more information to an online resource.
Yeah.
So I think that's good, because there are people. Yeah, I can't guarantee that people will actually read, but giving them the opportunity and access to the information is really important. And for me, when I'm out and about, like to be able to just share out the link to the newsletter and say, there's a ton of information here. Pick and choose what you want to dive into.
Yeah. Agreed.
As far as distribution, one of the things that we talked about, and Brooke, thank you for saying that you and Tucker were headed to Rotary.
Yeah.
Is that what you said? Yeah. One of the that was one of the groups we talked about. Is there a way to get their mailing list to make sure we're sending this information or providing this to them to then distribute? I don't know what other talking point opportunities any board members may have at various community groups, but that was one of the discussions about outreach to some of the other organization, on whether it was neighborhood associations or what did we talk about? Rotary, Chamber, Civic League.
Civic League's next newsletter is not a bad spot to get a pitch for our newsletter with a link to this next one. That would
Do you
be
have a contact there that you can connect with?
totally, yeah.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Yeah,
And then go ahead.
and that feeds into the individual neighborhood associations. They can send it to the presidents and ask them to distribute to members. So that all feeds out nicely. And the community foundation, Margaret is always willing to feed things out to all their nonprofits that are part of them. So
How are we going to get it there, Rima? And I only asked that question is because now we're down an office administrator. Are you able to communicate with her on that?
yeah, I can send a link to or send it to her and to Margreta and ask her to distribute it, and that's usually not a problem at all.
And also I work for Community Public Sense.
Yes, exactly. And then there's Meg.
I didn't want to be presumptuous. I didn't, yeah, thank you. Okay, any more thoughts on the communications effort on these items? Yeah, Rima, can we send, can we send comments to you on the newsletter to compile all of them and communicate with Florencia?
Yeah, that would be fine. And actually it's Haley. Haley is,
Oh,
working
great.
with Florencia. So yeah, and I had told Haley that I'd go over and do like an edit to try to make everything as compact and clear, plain language as possible. So I'll be doing that. But yes, anyone can send.
That way we're not all
That's-
sending her.
That might be open meeting violation, though. I think it has to go through staff and get distributed somehow, unfortunately. I don't think we're supposed to communicate directly with each other.
I
No
think you
fun.
might be right. And I'm not here to
I think we can send them to Haley. If Haley has a new email, I'm not sure, but Haley is still the one in charge of this sector of outreach for Florencia.
Okay, so, all right, the edit to that is, can you communicate with Haley in case there's conflicting suggestions and then be the trump card to
Yeah,
help
sure.
her work through those
Yes,
versus getting the emails directly?
yes.
And then if each of the board members could make an effort to maybe by the end of the day tomorrow, the 5th, to send any comments.
Yeah, they want to get it out quickly.
Great. Awesome. Any more comments, questions, communications? Seeing none, I'll move down to close item 5 and open down payment assistance program discussion action. Brooke, I'm going to come to you on this. I haven't seen any paperwork.
That would be because my life went completely haywire in the last couple of weeks. But I did right before I listened back through our discussion right before this meeting. And I just want to give you a heads up of sort of what I see as a recap of where we landed after our discussion. And I think that there's a series of, I think we all agree that we'd like to do a down payment assistance program of some kind. I think there's consensus on that. I think that there are sort of 6 with a couple of sub bullet points, decision points that we're going to have to decide in crafting this program. And I'm not asking for decisions today, but I think perhaps at our next meeting, I'll come back and say, okay, guys, let's flesh this out. Let's hammer out what we're going to decide on some of these decision points and put together a program for town council to review. So they are, and I'll just list them. What is the maximum dollar amount that we're willing to do per transaction? What is the ratio of the homeowner match? So 1-to-1, 2-to-1, whatever. We had been talking about 1-to-1, but we should, finalize that. Do we make this available only using existing deed restrictions that we have sort of in the community profile now? Or do we hold for new types of deed restrictions? This is what you were talking about, Brian, that don't exist yet. Or, do we start just with the covenant program and habitat and the housing with deed restrictions that we already have, and then expand later to others, or wait till those other restrictions are in place and available legally? Interest rate, do we have one? What is the repayment schedule? Is it amortized or is it a balloon payment on resale? How do we set the rate? Is it fixed or is it indexed at the time of, and when is it indexed? At the time of closing, et cetera? Do we allow for people to apply for forgiveness if at the closing or repayment, they're underwater, or this is going to be a financial burden like we do with the closing cost assistance? We allow an application for some forgiveness. Do we restrict this to first time never owned a home buyers, or just to people who do not currently own real estate at the time they apply? Just the definition of when it has to be repaid. And I think it's upon sale or cash out refi was sort of how the other programs work, as the 2 times where you would have to repay it. So those are sort of going to be that's our decision tree to craft this program. And I think what I'll do is come up with like A, B, we have A, B, or C, and then we can sort of go through and discuss and vote on the different criteria for a program. And then we have a program to propose and have town council review. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay, terrific.
So let's just keep this item open and roll it to the future agenda for continued discussion.
Yep.
Thank you. Housing Advocacy Day, Housing Bank Bill, kind of a recap of the events. Brooke, you were there. Do you want to give a recap?
There was an incredible amount of energy. We were outshone by those vineyarders who have a little easier trip than we do. 250 of them and about 60 of us. And we made some loud noise on the front steps of the State House, some honking cars as we were yelling and singing, and the speakers were great. There was a young student from Martha's Vineyard who made an impassioned speech, and it was Tucker spoke, and Peter from the chamber. We sent a really strong contingent of folks, and the organizers had us broken down in small groups, and we got to meet with legislators. In some cases, their staff people, not the legislators themselves. And I think we were really, in the meetings I was in, we were really able to impress a few things upon them. And that is, look at this group. Our communities are diverse. We are not what people think when they see us on Instagram, and the need is real. And individuals telling stories was compelling to some of these folks who really didn't get why we need this in our communities in particular. And then I would say we impressed upon them that the latter half of this legislative session is too late. We needed this yesterday, that we're deep in the hole in terms of increasing real estate prices and the suffering and the loss of the foundation of our communities and people. And I think, we really did a good job of communicating that. There were, I'll be honest, when I hear state politicians talk about, now Dylan and Julian did not mince any words. They were eloquent and tough And, but when you talk to other politicians, you get a lot of sort of political speak, commitment without commitment kind of language. And I was talking to Laura Silber from the Vineyard about my disappointment. And she said, look, Brooke, Karen Spilka, the president of the Senate, came into a room. We were allowed to go in the Senate chamber. They made a special dispensation for us to go sit in the chamber and get a feel for it. And the Senate president came in and spoke to the group. And yes, her words were kind of not as committed. They were political, but Laura reminded me that it's important to recognize that she made the time to come in the room and speak to us. And that alone is a really good indicator that we're getting attention. And that really helped me sort of reset my expectations a little bit around what we hear and see from the folks at the State House on this issue. And so I felt really energized coming out of it. I loved seeing the kids. A bunch of 8th graders came as part of their civics class. And other, just other random people from Nantucket who showed up, and said, I'm going to take a day and go to Boston. And it was really cool. Brian, you were there, so.
I would echo all of your comments. Thank you, for the thorough. It was incredibly energizing. It was exciting. I think that the vastness of the group was, and the need was palatable across anybody who was around the building that day. I was thoroughly impressed with how large the group at the Vineyard was and how they are in their community. They're actively having the dialogue, and how can every man, woman, person help the problem. So apparently the week leading up to it was, will you work my shift so I can go to Boston? I want to participate in the solution. So it is a community conversation of not just being a problem, but there's an opportunity to drive a solution. And so I think that was a very holistic and whole approach, where there is a megaphone going off on Nantucket at the moment about the problem, but it is not necessarily a solutions-driven conversations throughout the community, just the need here. And I think that they've over there maybe have made the second step is, let's all work together on solutions. So to that note, it's really nice to have, Shelley Lockwood as a member of the community come today and, here to provide a concept for a solution. So I'm hopeful we can continue to work on our outreach and make it to, not Civic League, where you're going, Rotary, etc., and make the conversation more public. So it was great. I'm continuously hopeful about the housing bank bill, but my eggs aren't in the basket. We need to work from here and create our own solutions. So that's my summary. It was great. It was exhilarating to go and be there.
It was.
So with that, we'll close that one and jump over to item 7, the Dr. Dickler Housing Advocate Award. It's my understanding that the town moderator has agreed for us to be able to announce a winner of the Dr. Dickler Housing Award at town meeting, which is incredibly exciting. I believe we have criteria in place for people to not apply for it. What's the word I'm looking for? To nominate members of the community. The nominations, I guess, will go to Tucker for us to review at a future meeting. So we want to open up that conversation to the community and let people know that we'd like to honor housing advocates in our community, and that we're going to do it at this year's town meeting and kind of come back from there. So Rima.
Yeah, there's a nice blurb about that in the newsletter with information about the award and how to nominate. And yes, the nominations will go to Tucker. And Tucker suggested that we vote at our May 2nd meeting. and choose the recipient at that time, which is the meeting closest to annual town meeting. I think,
Here's a silly
In-
procedural question. Are we going to be meeting an executive session for that? So everybody's surprised, or is it a public agenda item? I don't know. I don't mean to be.
I don't know if it fits in executive session,
Okay.
but you know, but maybe we can, I don't know, submit our votes or something, to Tucker without.
Okay. Brooke, you had a comment?
No, I was gonna suggest that we we discern legally how we can do this and keep it under wraps.
Right.
And that's taking votes by email, or rather than an open session. I think it's gonna be, I think I would love for it to only be known. Even if the votes go by email, then none of us would know. We would be
Exactly.
as surprised on the floor of town meeting as everyone else, that it could just be Tucker who knows, which I think could be, or Tucker and Brian as chair or something. I
Well-
think that'd be amazing.
Tucker,
I don't wanna know.
Tucker and I discussed maybe notifying the recipient to make sure that they were actually there.
Yeah.
So, but Sarah's happy to do it, and she just, once as we get closer to it, she just said, "Just tell me what I have to say."
Yeah.
And
The
I guess
person
we
I
can
have in
just-
mind, I wanna make sure they don't know, so they won't stay home to avoid it.
Exactly.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I love this.
Yep. So
And Anna should be invited to, Anna Martinez.
Of-
It's,
yes,
to-
yes. But Sarah is happy and excited to do it, and so I'm happy that we're all good there.
Awesome. Thank you. So we'll close that for now. We've done newsletter. Item 10, other business. Is there any new other business that wasn't previously on the agenda last minute to discuss? Seeing none. Oh, actually, wait, there is, but I don't have confirmation on the date. We're going to need a special meeting before the next meeting on April 25th, and I believe Tucker's going to reach out to get consensus on date and times to make sure we can have a quorum related to voting on the estoppel agreement previously mentioned. So there's that. Go ahead, Rima.
Yeah, I think I received something from him saying Friday at 10.
Okay. If you could respond to that and confirm whether that works or doesn't work for you. So, because I don't know if he has sent it to everybody or he's just
Oh, okay.
checking one at a time, or
All right. All right.
Meg or Chantal, have you seen that, and do those work for you?
Yeah.
Yes, he texted.
Go ahead.
Meg, go first, then Chantal.
He texted and that works.
Okay. Okay, so
Same.
it looks like we're zeroing in for that. Friday at 10.
Mhm.
We'll close other business. Item 11, board comments. Seeing nobody jump. I guess I can look for a motion to go to executive session, but I don't know that we have an item today for it, unless somebody has something I'm unaware of. So
Yeah.
I guess I'll look for a motion not to take up executive session today.
My life easier all the time.
Yeah. So I move that we remove executive session from the agenda.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second,
Okay, so by roll call, Rima Sherry,
aye.
Brooke Moore.
Aye.
Chantal Murphy,
I
Meg Bowers,
Hi.
and Brian Sullivan's an aye. So then I'll need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
So
Second.
motion from Brooke, second from Meg, by roll call, Rima Sherry,
Aye.
Brooke Moore. Brooke, did you say yes? I'm sorry.
Oh, aye, yeah.
Chantal Murphy,
I
Meg Bowers,
Hi.
and Brian Sullivan's an aye.
No, Brian, I want us to stay in this meeting forever.
Oh. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Gift
Thank
of
you,
time.
Lynn.
Have a good
Bye.
afternoon, everybody.
Aye.
See you Friday.